Hello there, everybody, and welcome back to Buckeye Politics. It's me, your favorite Ohioan. So today, we have a bunch of primaries going on later tonight across several different states. We're going to be looking at some of, in my opinion, the most important ones. A lot of these states are either safe Republican or safe Democrat, so there really aren't that many, I guess, exciting races, to be quite honest, in any of these states. But there are a few that are very interesting to look at, and there are just a couple I threw in here that, we can talk about for a couple minutes, see if something interesting might happen, might not, we'll see. But the first one and the big one we got to look at is the 2022 New Mexico gubernatorial election. Michelle Lujan Grisham is the incumbent governor of New Mexico. She's a member of the Democratic Party. And she is not like, she's just like a generic Democrat. She's not super far left, but she's also definitely not a moderate. But the big thing is she is scandal plagued. She currently is basically in court and is basically did do some very naughty things with one of her staffers and some other very ugly stuff with some sexual conduct in her office. So she is scandal plagued. She's very unpopular in New Mexico, and that brings the absolute Chad, Mike Ronchetti, a former TV meteorologist from Albuquerque. He is a Republican. He is trying to win the Republican nomination to challenge Michelle Lujan Grisham. And he is incredible. He ran for Senate back in 2020. He overperformed Trump by like 5 points. New Mexico is a solidly Democratic state. It used to be more of a swing state. After Obama came, it kind of became a solid Democrat state due to its large Hispanic and suburban population. However, recently, due to Hispanics beginning to trend towards the Republican Party because the Democrats have gone so far left on certain social issues, people have been saying, you know what, New Mexico could be back in play for the GOP. And this is going to be a big test if that happens. So Mark Ronchetti, he is solid on the issues. He's a great candidate. He's very popular across the state. He's good on the issues. He's perfect for the state of New Mexico in terms of both personality and policy. And he is running, and he's already well liked. He overperformed Trump back in 2020, and he's running against a very unpopular Democrat. So really, it's going to the big thing I want to look at is see who gets more votes in the Democratic primary, like whether Democrats turn out more or Republicans turn out more, because we've seen some crazy one-sided margins for the GOP in terms of these like early primary to vote totals for all the candidates combined. So if this race is competitive, then if the GOP even has more voters turn out than the Democrats, that could be interesting to look at as well. And then I think just the big thing is whether Ronchetti, he's going to win this nomination. He's beating everyone by like 31 points. Just he's got to come together, unite the party, and move on and defeat Michelle Lujan Grisham, which I think he will. I have this race tilt Republican. It's going to be very close, but the incumbent governor, she's very unpopular, and Ronchetti is a great candidate. Let's look at the Senate election in South Dakota. Incumbent Senator John Thune is awful on the issues. He's just he's a rhino. He's terrible on the issues. And he's from South Dakota, too. South Dakota is a very conservative state. We should have a solid Republican senator from the state of South Dakota, you would think. No, we have John Thune. So there are a couple candidates who tried to challenge him. None of them really went anywhere. And none of them got the Trump endorsement, which is the other big thing. Trump did not endorse John Thune. If there was an actual candidate, he probably would have made an endorsement. Mark Maui, from what I've seen, is probably the best candidate. He's ran a very grassroots campaign, so it is interesting to see that he could possibly make this interesting. Based on this polling, as you can see, yeah, probably not going to happen. Although, like I said, Mark Mallory, he has made gains recently with grassroots stuff, and obviously there hasn't really been a poll since then. And John Thune being under 50% in the primary shows that he is not very well liked. He would probably be vulnerable if we just had a better candidate. That's really been the story of 2022, our attempts to primary out a bunch of rhinos. It's just we have too many people running for the same seat, and then it ends up just obviously not working because the vote gets split, or we don't have good candidates. Really, that's just another big issue. So John Thune, he'll win this race. It's safe Republican. If he gets primaried out, he wins. If he wins the primary, he wins. It's safe Republican. It's just I'm really hoping we can vote him out somehow. I think we have a chance with Mark Mallory. It's just very slim. Now let's look at the House of Representatives election in New Jersey. There's only one race that's interesting to me here, and that is in the 4th district, which is a very Republican area. It is represented by Republican Chris Smith, and he is an absolute rhino. He's a social liberal. He votes for the Democrats relatively often, and he's an absolute rhino. And he's from one of the most Republican parts of New Jersey. He's from the southeastern part of the state, very very white, very working class. It's like the Alabama of New Jersey. It's like the only part of the state that votes heavily for the GOP. And so we should have a solid Republican there, you would think. But no, we have Chris Smith, who is just abysmal on the issues, and he's an absolute rhino. And because of that, we have Mike Crispy, who is a conservative TV commentator from Right Side Broadcasting Network. For those of you who don't know, RSBN is an Auburn-based, Auburn, Alabama-based TV. I don't think they're on TV, but they're all over social media. They're just a conservative media organization. They cover Trump's rallies. They do a lot of stuff with Mike Lindell and Trump. And Mike Crispy is perfect. He is a strong America First conservative. He's very populist, very socially conservative, but very fiscally populist, which is absolutely perfect for the district he's running in. And it's such a solid Republican district. And this guy is super America First. He's super based on the issues. If you live in New Jersey, please vote for Mike Crispy. Not going to be easy to primary out Chris Smith. He's been there since the 1980s. Trump never actually officially endorsed Mike Crispy, but polls show that this race could be kind of close. And you can see here Mike Crispy has some solid endorsements from a bunch of really good Republicans. Meanwhile, Chris Smith just had all the establishment, pro-Israel, at least Stefanik, Kevin McCarthy. Yeah, you all know who to vote for in this race. So please get out there and vote for Mike Crispy. Hoping to see an upset tonight. Really, that would be incredible to see. I would rather us lose like a bunch of these races if we can get Mike Crispy into Congress. He's perfect for this seat. He's based on the issues, and he's great. I really hope we can get him in. Look at the Iowa gubernatorial election. Really nothing special here. There's literally Kim Reynolds, incumbent Republican governor. She's gonna win. There's literally one Democrat running, and this race is likely Republican. She's leading in all the polls. I just really want to see kind of like how the primary goes in terms of which party has higher turnout, more votes cast in each primary. Because it's considering there's only one Republican and one Democrat, that's kind of an even playing field to see who gets more votes. And really just the margin of that is all I kind of want to look at. If the Republicans do dominate, then I think that, which I kind of expect, then I think the GOP should win this race by safe. If it's a little closer, maybe go down to likely. I don't know. I don't know anything about this lady. Kim Reynolds is pretty popular statewide. Red Wave Viewer, I think Kim Reynolds is going to win, but she's just, the margin will be interesting. The next race is the Senate election. That is between the Chuck Grassley, he'll win this race. I don't know why he's primarying him. Chuck Grassley, been in the Senate since the 1980s. He should win this race. I don't know why he's even being challenged. He's literally like a folk hero among Iowa Republicans and Democrats. Looking at the polls here, look at this guy. Chuck Grassley is safe Republican. He's leading by like 20 points in all these polls. Chuck Grassley is he's a great guy. He's a great candidate. He's old though. Unironically, not sure if he'll make it as another 6 years. He'll be 89 years old. This guy is a farmer from the middle of nowhere in Iowa. He's 89 years old. He's been in politics since the 1950s. He campaigned with Dwight Eisenhower and Nixon back in the 50s and 60s. And he's still in the Senate, still in politics, and he's still representing Iowa. The people there love him. He's just been there for so long. There's kind of that fine line. When you've been there in D.C., which in the case for most politicians, you just become a corrupt old hag who doesn't do anything. But for some, there are very rare cases like Chuck Grassley, where everyone just has this big fondness for you, and you stay in touch with your constituents, and everyone loves you, and you win re-election by like 30 points. And that's what's going to happen here in Iowa. The final race I want to look at is the California gubernatorial election. Obviously, I don't think the race is going to flip. The recall showed us that this is a much harder state to flip than we first thought, and it's more further gone than we first thought. But I do just want to look at the fact that since California does have a jungle primary system, so basically how that works is this exact thing you see here when you go to vote appears on your ballot. You vote for who you want to win, and then the top two advance to the general. So this is just crazy. I don't know why you would vote like this. It makes everything very chaotic, but you know what? It works, apparently. So the thing I want to look at here is Gavin Newsom, incumbent Democratic governor, is actually only polling about 40 to 50%, which is kind of expected considering there are so many candidates out there. But I think it's interesting that because he's polling so iffy, that we may actually get a Republican. You see, the way jungle primaries work, and especially in North Carolina, is because, California, not North Carolina, excuse me. There are so many California is such a Democratic state that there's so many that even if, like, Gavin Newsom's the incumbent, the second place Democrat gets more votes than the first place Republican. And so it ends up, excuse me, it ends up being a Democrat versus a Democrat. But these polls show that a Republican may actually managed to get second place in this jungle primary, which is good. We haven't seen that in a while recently. The Democrats have just swept California because it's been There's so many candidates running. The Republican vote gets split. The Democrats have just so many. There's so many Democrats in California that ends up being a Democrat versus a Democrat, and we really don't even like compete in this race. And so look, that is not going to happen. Hopefully, based on the polls, and we'll just have to look at that. And the fact that Newsom's only polling at 40-50%, especially after the runoff when he basically united the entire state party around him, could be telling that this race could get competitive. I don't think it's going to. Kind of wish casting here in California, but you know what? Just interesting to look, interesting race to look at. So with that, thank you for watching this quick video where we analyze the primaries tonight. Please go out and vote if you have not already, and if you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe for more.